Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And today I am all about the gorgeous Floral Charm Suite from the July release of Stampin' Up! Online exclusives. Now, Stampin' Up! Has taken to releasing new products every 2 months, which is awesome because we always have new toys to play with. But it's easy to miss them because they come so fast and furious. We've been used to, as demonstrators and customers, we've been used to 3 releases per year, right? An annual catalog and 2 minis. But now we have new products every 2 months. So it is easy to miss them. So I am really trying to make a point of highlighting some of our gorgeous online exclusive products. And I got to say, I often like the stuff that's in the online exclusives better than what's in the catalog. Not that what's in the catalog is bad, but oh my goodness, gorgeous stuff. So I am going to highlight the suite. I'm going to show you all the products just in case you missed them. Excuse me, that was a weird little frog in my throat. I'm going to make 3 projects with you, and then I'm going to show you some additional samples. Okay, so while I am showing you the products, I would love for you to say hello. Let me know where you're watching from, and let me know if you've already checked out this suite. Okay, all right, let's switch to my desk here. Here we go. So the Floral Charm Suite has a beautiful stamp and die bundle, absolutely stunning DSP and embellishment. So if you have been around Stampin' Up! For a while, you know what our product suites are all about. But the best thing I love about them is that it makes for easy coordination, right? You can put together projects really quickly and easily just by using the products in the suite. So to start, we have this beautiful bundle. It's called Charming Day. We have lovely floral images, great for coloring. If you like to color, these are pretty sweet for coloring. We have some fun fonts in our sentiments, and then we have a gorgeous set of dies. So there are 3 open dies that cut out the stamped images, but then we have a whole bunch of extra dies that I absolutely love. In fact, you're going to see me using them on 2 out of the 3 cards today because they are so beautiful. So it's a beautiful bundle. Absolutely love it. Lots of possibilities. I will show you the embellishments in a minute, but I want to get to this paper. This paper is just gorgeous. So Stampin' Up! Does florals. I think that is their best thing. They do such an amazing job with florals. Their concept art people are just so talented. So we have these beautiful floral designs. So we've got 1 and 2. I love this one. It's very late summer, early fall. This one too, with the leaves. And then this one. And finally this one. And then, of course, when we flip over, we have beautiful sort of more solid color designs that contrast the florals on the reverse side so perfectly. So we've got Pretty Peacock, Berry Burst, Timid Tiger, Mossy Meadow, Night of Navy, and Blackberry Bliss. So let me just take a minute and flip some of these over so you can see how well these complement each other. So there, we could use, let me get those out of the way. That looks fantastic together. Actually, you're going to see that combo in a minute. And then we have these beautiful ones, and that works really well together. These work really well together. They just, it's so thoughtfully designed. It's such a great paper. So that is the Floral Charm Designer Series paper. And then, of course, we have embellishment. So I have so missed this braided trim. We used to carry this in just a natural like undyed. This is actually petal pink. It's a very, very soft color. It's, I mean, I think you would probably color this pretty easily with your blends if you want, if we're so inclined. But I love the sort of earthy texture of this. And I especially love separating the braids and using the individual strands. You're going to see me do that on the last card. So this is called, what's it called? Petal Pink Braided Trim. Okay, and then we have some pretty embellishments. These are Charming Shimmer Faceted Dots, Petal Pink, Berry Burst, and Night of Navy is your color palette there. Look how they shimmer and shine. So pretty. All right, let's see who's here, and then we are going to get to some stamping. Oh, I see we've got some people from both Facebook and YouTube. That always makes me happy. All right. Hi, Jean. Welcome. Hi, Susan and Terry. Welcome. Hi, Lauren. Hot and steamy in Philly. It's pretty hot and steamy here too. Hi, Mia. Yep, it's hot in Cincinnati. It is hot for all over the place. It is just, yeah. Laura, you have no sound. Okay. I think everyone else does. I'm not seeing anyone else comment on that. So maybe close and reopen and see if that helps. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Joyce and Lauren and Peggy. Welcome. Hi, Sonia. Thank you for sharing. Hi, Gail. Good to see you. Hi, Cheryl. All right, let's get to it. First card we're going to make, I always like to do a really quick one. This is a super quick one, very soft and pretty. Really just all about the die cuts. There's very little involved with this, but I wanted to show you this cool faux embossing technique. So one of my favorite things to do with large die cuts like come in this set is to do this faux embossing technique. So this looks like an embossing folder, but it's not. We're actually going to create the look of embossing by layering tone-on-tone die cuts. So I've cut 2 of the large floral die cuts out of white cardstock. So we're going to layer white on white. Now, this is easiest done with adhesive sheets on the back. If you don't have adhesive sheets, you certainly can do it. It's just going to take you a little bit more time because you're going to have to apply all your glue. But this just makes it super quick and easy. So I'm going to put one down in this bottom corner here. Just like that. And then flip it around. And we'll do a second one. The adhesive sheets make this such a piece of cake. I'm just going to get off. I had to do a little bit of patchwork here on with my adhesive sheets. So gotta get all my little bits off there. And we'll pop this one on. Oh yeah, we're good. Pop this one on about there. And then these little bits that are overhanging, we're just going to take our snips and trim them off. So I'm just going to flip it over and then use the edge of my cardstock as a guide and trim off those excess bits. There we go. Okay, you got sound on your phone, but not on your TV. That one I can't help you with, Laura. I'm sorry. I don't know. Not sure what's going on there. You'll have to watch on the little screen today on your phone. Maybe you can catch it on the replay on the big screen. I don't know. All right, so there we go. How quick and easy was that to get a beautiful faux embossed look? Isn't that just the prettiest thing? I think this would make a lovely wedding card too. All right, so now I have a third die cut. This one does not have adhesive sheets on the back. We're actually going to end up popping this up on our card front. But first, we're going to add a little bit of color to our die cut. So my color palette for this one is Soft Seafoam, Bubble Bath, and Lemon Lolly. Okay, so I'm going to start with my Soft Seafoam, and I'm using small blending brushes. That gives me the most control. And I prefer blending brushes over daubers for this because the daubers can tear this very delicate die cut. The blending brushes are much softer and I can use a much lighter touch and not risk damaging the die cut. So I'm just going to hit all of my leaves to start with the Soft Seafoam. So there's those two. And as you're doing this, if you happen to hit, the edge of the flowers, it's not a big deal because we're going to apply color to those in a moment and it'll become much less obvious that you've got a bit of green on them. So I just love this look of the blended ink on the die cut. It's so soft. Oops, see how easy it is to tear? Even with the blending brush, I came close to tearing that little guy off there. All right, Judy, you caught me live. Awesome. Welcome. I'm glad you were able to join me. All right, so there are my leaves done. How quick was that? And then we're going to do our little yellow flowers. So just there's like 3 little flowers. We're going to add a bit of lemon lolly to them. This takes literally no time. Whoops, that was got a little aggressive with that one. That's okay. We'll fix, don't worry. There we go. There are little yellow flowers. And I am going to add a little more to this guy. He's looking a little pale. There we go. And then finally, our large flowers we're going to do with bubble bath. So again, pick up a little bit of ink. And for this, I like to start in the middle and work out. I like my sort of the centers of my flowers to be darkest. And we work outwards from here. There we go. We have a pretty little floral element to add to our card. So now we're just going to take and add some mini dimensionals to the back of this. Minis, there you are. So it's really just a matter of hitting kind of, I mean, you could spend hours applying mini dimensionals to every petal and leaf, but it's not necessary. This is not a heavy element, so we don't need tons of adhesive. I do like to make sure that things aren't going to catch as they're coming, being taken in and out of the envelope. But that should do it. So now we're going to go ahead and apply that to the front of our faux emboss panel. So I'm going to get rid of my backings here. Hi, Jill. Welcome. Glad you made it. Yeah, Post-it notes work really well as a mask. I agree. The only thing is you sometimes get straight edges with your Post-it notes. If you were to die cut out of a Post-it note and then layer it like a mask, that would work really well. But you know what? Getting a little bit of yellow on one petal, not a big deal. All right, now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. The sentiment label is from the Happy Hibiscus bundle, and it's a perfect size for the Happy Birthday bundle, or Happy Birthday sentiment, I should say, in this stamp set. So I'm going to stamp in Smokey Slate and hope that this is straight. Sometimes when I mount my stamps, they aren't the straightest. Anybody else have that problem? Maybe it's just me. All right, we're going to go ahead and layer that now just across our center, or our floral image. I'm going to put a couple of dimensionals on the end that hangs off, actually maybe just one, and then a little bit of seal on the end that overlaps our floral elements so that it lays nice and flat. So we'll pop that on. Oh, I don't know. Let's put it right about there. All right, now we're going to layer that on a piece of Smokey Slate cardstock, 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. Not sure I mentioned my white panel that I started with was 4 by 5 1/4. You could probably guess that if you've been stamping for any length of time, but I always like to give the dimensions just in case we have new people joining. Also, if you are new to my videos, you will find all of the measurements for all of the cards that I demonstrate today in the video description. So you'll have to scroll down, but you will find them there. Okay. All right. Next, we are going to mount this on a thick basic white card base, 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. All right. Hi, Liata. How are you? Welcome. It's nice to see you. It is pretty exciting to be retired. I am not going to lie, but I have to say it doesn't feel any different right now than summer vacation. I've been saying everybody who asks me how retirement is, it asks me again on September 2nd when I'm not sitting in a staff meeting or doing all of my health and safety online training videos for 6 hours. I am not going to miss that one little bit. All right, there we go. So now we're going to add just a little bit of embellishment. I have some of this pretty silver and white sheer ribbon. So I'm just going to take and tie myself a little bow. This ribbon is so pretty and so sheer. It almost is invisible on the card, but it just adds a little bit of softness. So I just like having that extra little bit of softness and shine. So we'll trim our tails, grab a glue dot. Come here, you. And we're going to tuck that right in the bottom corner of our label there. And then a couple of little pearls. These are the iridescent pearls. Not part of the suite, but I felt like the white on white just worked really well. And I kind of wanted to continue with that sort of vibe with my embellishments. So we'll just add a couple of these. And there we go. And I'm done. Isn't that pretty? So simple. All right, let's move on to number 2. Clean up my mess here. All right. Next one features this gorgeous paper. So this one is, again, not terribly complicated, but uses the Stampin' blends to color, my favorite coloring medium, and it also sneak peeks a new product that is coming in the mini catalog in just over a month. So let's get to work on this. So first of all, we're going to color our focal image. I've started this one, but I'm going to finish it off to show you what I did. So for the flowers, I've got 3 different shades of Stampin' blends. So we've got light fresh freesia. I'm doing them in the order that I use them. Light fresh freesia, then light petunia pop, then dark blackberry bliss, and light bubble bath. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with our light fresh freesia. Now this one is on its last legs. It is getting rather dry. It's time to order a refill, or a replacement rather. So I'm going to color the entire flower in the light. And I'm not going to be super careful. I'm not going to worry about trying to get in to all the nooks and crannies. That's not really necessary because this, again, is just my foundation layer. There we go. There's my light fresh freesia. Then I'm going to come in with my light petunia pop. And I'm going to follow the petals on my flower. So I'm just kind of highlighting around the petals here. There we go. And then I'm going to come in with my dark blackberry bliss, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to go directly over top of the petunia pop that I just used, but I'm kind of in the neighborhood, shall we say. Okay. And then this is the step that pulls it all together. I'm going to take my light bubble bath and I'm going to wash over the whole thing. And that is going to blend all of those different shades of purples. And it's actually going to give it a little bit more of a pink look than a purple look. It's kind of crazy the way this color just blends everything together. I'm trying to mimic the flowers on the DSP, which are actually watercolored. So this look actually comes pretty darn close to watercoloring. I mean, I certainly could watercolor if I was so inclined, but this look works quite well. Okay, now that looks really different from these two. Just wait for this to dry. Okay, all right, so that's the flower. And then I did the leaves in 2 different colors. So the 3 large leaves that are kind of coming out from the larger flower, I'm coloring in light Night of Navy. So I'm going to color the entire leaf in the light. Okay. Then I'm going to come in with my color lifter. For a minute, I forgot what this was called. And I'm just going to run this over the area that I just colored. And it takes a little bit of time, but you can see that that color is starting to lift and match the other leaf. Again, I'm going for a little bit of a watercolory look. So by running the color lifter over the solid colored leaf, I get a more mottled watercolor effect. Okay. Now these last 3 smaller leaves, I'm coloring with light. Is it light? Yes, light Pretty Peacock. I had to double check that. And I'm going to do the same kind of thing. So again, color the entire leaf with just the 1 shade. And you can see the difference. So this is after color lifter. This is before. Maybe I'll hold that up so you can see. Okay, before, or sorry, before, after. So you can see how that's quite solid, and this becomes much more mottled and watercolor looking. So again, I'm going to take that color lifter and come in and just run it over the area I just colored. I don't have to be super precise. There we go. That's how we get our sort of watercolor effect. All right. Okay, let's get these out of the way, and we'll put this one together. So for this one, I wanted to not have a frame around my card front. So this piece of DSP is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. It's going to cover my entire card front. Then I have a frame that I cut using the Gallery Blooms dies. So it's the large die that cuts 3 different rectangles. So this is sort of the medium-sized one. And we're going to layer our floral elements like this. But the best part, we're going to add some of this gorgeous glimmer paper. Look at that. That is called the Peaceful Garden Glimmer Paper. It is coming as part of a new suite in the mini catalog starting September 2nd. And it is absolutely gorgeous. There are 3 different shades. This one is Secret Sea-ish. It says dark blue, but it's actually, it looks very close to Secret Sea. There's also one that's very close to Cloud Cover, and then there's one that's a sort of a royal blue, which is very close to Blueberry Bushel. All right, so we're going to add some of these sparkly elements. So what I love about this larger die cut is that I can easily trim this and get 2 smaller cuts, okay, that look quite nice. So we're going to use those. I'm going to add a little bit of seal to the back of my flower element here. We're going to add, what are we going to do? We're going to do this one first, I think. Coming up here. And then this guy is going to come up from here. If I've got some seal there, yes, I do. And then, oh, we need a little bit more. It's not going to stay. Add a little bit more there. And then we're going to add this little guy, kind of coming at the end here, like that. This needs to go up a little bit higher. So that is going to sit on there like that. Now what I'm going to do is actually lay my frame just on my grid paper here, and I'm going to tack this on. I've got all kinds of seal on there from adding all of my floral elements. So now I can flip this over, and I'm going to put dimensionals on the entire thing and adhere it to my DSP panel. So easy way to secure everything, make sure it's all going to stay put, and also pop up the entire frame. There we go. I'll put one more down here. There we go. I might put a mini behind that one leaf that's hanging out there. There we go. All right. So we'll get rid of our backings. And then that is going to get adhered to our DSP panel. Centered, and I do have to stand to do this because my desk is a little bit higher than an average desk. It's actually counter height, and if I'm seated, I can't quite get things straight when I'm popping them up. There we go. Isn't that pretty? So easy to build your arrangement. And then we have our label. We're going to stamp happy birthday on this one as well. As soon as I figure out what I did with the stamp, there it is. We're going to stamp in Night of Navy. So we'll go ahead and stamp that. Just like that. Now on my sample, I did do some stamped off floral, but I forgot to mount that stamp. So we're not going to worry about it on this one. But we are going to tuck this in amongst our greenery here. So it's going to kind of nestle in there. I like having a little bit of the sparkle on my label. It just kind of adds a little something. So I'm going to add a little bit of seal here and a little bit of seal here, and then a dimensional in the middle where it's going to cross over. So a little bit of seal, a little bit of seal, and then we're just going to tuck this in. Get that hopefully straight. There we go. Yeah, that's not bad. I might just put a glue dot underneath that one little leaf there so it doesn't catch. Where did I put my glue dots? There they are, hiding under the edge of my computer. So we're just going to tuck this little guy in here. Just make sure that stays put. There we go. Now that's going to get adhered to a pretty Peacock card base, 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored at 5 1/2. So we'll fold that in half along our score line. All right. Oh, we've got some new people joining. Hi, Kenzie. Hi, Alexina. Welcome. Glad you could make it. All right. So whenever I am adhering a piece that is the same size as my card front, I like to score and fold my card and then open it back up. And that gives me a nice little bump here. See that little ridge from folding and burnishing the card base? That makes it really easy to bump my DSP up against it and get it situated, centered. So we're going to add a little bit of liquid glue. And line that up. There we go. Just like that. And then a couple of additional touches. We're going to add a little bow. This is our white, what is it? White rope woven ribbon. It's like pretty basic. It's quite pretty. And you can color this with your Stampin' blends. So that's a nice thing about white ribbon is it is really versatile because you can easily color it any color you like. But I am good with white on this one for a little bit of contrast against all those dark, rich colors. So there we go. And then that's going to go on just kind of where the label and the frame meet, kind of like it's holding the label onto the frame. So a little glue dot there, tuck that in, and there we go. Isn't that pretty? Our last touch is some of our charming shimmer faceted dots. We're going to add some of the navy, and these work so well with the glimmer paper on here. You just add that extra little bit of shimmer. Pop one up here. There we go. All right, done. Now on my sample, I added a white layer on the inside and then stamped and colored another of the flowers. Okay. All right. That's number 2. Hi, Jeannie K. You made it. Welcome. Glad you could join us. All right, next, last card is a fun fold. So I posted a version of this yesterday, and I promised that I would show you how to make it. Now, if you were part of my Christmas in July event this weekend, you have already made one of these folds. But this fold it's super easy and packs a wow and still folds flat for mailing. So these elements squish flat into your envelope, and it's easy to mail. On the back, you've got lots of space to write your greeting, and it's freestanding. Stands up. So it's a really nifty little fold, and I'm kind of obsessed with it right now. I've got several versions of this to share with you afterwards. All right, so let me show you how to put this one together. I'm going to kind of walk you through the cutting and trimming because there's a little trick that allows you to do all of your scoring of all of these pieces all at once. Okay, so the measurements that I put in the video description are your starting point. Okay, and then I'm going to show you how to score. So again, as always, I make a template. So here's my template with all of my measurements so that I can quickly recreate this if and when I choose. And I have chosen to several times this week. All right, so we're starting with a piece of crumb cake cardstock that is 4 3/4 by 5 3/4. Okay, that measurement is in the video description, so you don't need to worry about writing it down. And I'm going to put it in my trimmer. I'm using my right-hand ruler just because I find it easier when I'm doing smaller measurements. So with the long side at the top, okay, that's a 5 3/4 inch side, I'm going to line up my right edge at 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to kick it out to 1 1/2. On our trimmer, the outer edge of the white is 1 1/2 inches. Makes it really easy. Okay, so I've got 3/4 and 1 1/2. I'm going to rotate my piece 180 degrees, and I've got the opposite long edge at the top, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. So 3/4 and 1 1/2. Easy peasy. Okay, can you see those score lines on there? Now I'm going to rotate it and put my short side at the top, and I'm going to cut 2 7/8 inch strips. Okay, so again, I'm using my right edge ruler, 7/8, and again, 7/8. Okay, and that gives me my 3 panels for my pop out. Okay, super easy. The other thing that we're going to do is cut our DSP. So we have 2 different DSP patterns. We're using this floral on the pop out section and then this timid tiger on the backing. So we're going to focus on this floral section first. So this piece starts out as at 2 5/8 by 4 3/8. Okay. And then I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to, with my long edge at the top, I'm going to cut off 3/4 of an inch from the top. And I'm going to rotate 180 degrees and cut off 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. Now that is going to allow my pattern to be continuous across all 3 panels. So when I lay these out, you've got 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So that's for my pop out piece. And then for my background panel, I have a piece that is 3 7/8 by 5.5 inches. Okay. And this time with the short side at the top, I'm going to cut 2 5/8 inch wide strips. So there's 1 and 2. Okay. And that is all my cutting. I don't usually do all the cutting and scoring. I usually do it ahead of time, but I wanted to show you how quick and easy it is to put this card together if you kind of do all of your cutting and scoring at once. All right. So our card is built on a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of crumb cake cardstock. Okay, so it's just a 1/4 sheet of cardstock. So I'm going to take my little strips that I scored and cut, and starting with one of my little skinny guys, the outermost score lines, I'm going to do a valley fold. So valley and valley on each end. The inner score lines I'm going to do as a mountain. So it's kind of like an accordion fold almost. Now, once I have those folded, I want to take a moment and make sure that it's straight, because you know how it goes. Sometimes when we fold things, we're not super careful, and I wasn't super careful there. I can see that this is not straight. So I'm just going to take and burnish those so that I have nice straight folds. Okay. Do the same thing with my other pieces. Once you've done a few of these, this goes really, really quickly. You can whip these up in no time. And then my centerpiece, same thing, valley, mountain. Let's make sure that's straight. And on the other end, same thing, valley, mountain. Okay, so all of our pieces kind of have that sort of omega shape. All right, so we've got 1, 2, and 3. All right, now we're going to decorate. So we're going to take our narrow strips. They're going to go on the narrow strips of DSP are going to go on the narrow strips of cardstock. So just a little bit of glue. Now you do want to pay attention as you are putting these together to direction, right? If you want your DSP to be a continuous pattern across all 3 panels, you do want to pay attention. So this is my bottom strip. And then I'm going to do my middle. Here we go. Oh, Kenzie, I have the same issue. Sometimes the words just won't come. It's kind of scary. It's especially scary when you're teaching in front of a class of teenagers and the words won't come. It's, yeah, a little unnerving. They just laugh at me. They think I'm some crazy old lady, but that's okay. They're not going to laugh anymore. They don't have any crazy old ladies to laugh at. All right, so there are our 3 panels, and you can see how my pattern continues across all 3. All right, now we're going to assemble this. So I'm going to start with my bottom strip here, and I'm going to stretch out one side and keep the other side tucked in. I'm going to flip it over, put a little bit of glue on each of those outer tabs. And then I'm going to lay it across that bottom edge of my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of crumb cake cardstock. And I'm going to line up that strip so that it's flush with the bottom edge and with the 2 sides. Can you see that? Okay. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the same thing with the top strip. Again, paying attention to direction, making sure I'm putting things all the right way around so that when I go to glue my middle section on, things match up. So again, stretch out one side, squish the other. And again, make sure your pieces are nice and straight. That one is not quite lined up. There we go. Okay. And then finally, for the middle one, we're just going to do the same thing. Glue's going to go on the long tabs here on the sides. Whoops. That almost was where I didn't want it. And again, we're going to stretch this out, centering it between the top and bottom. And snug it on in there. There we go. Ooh, that's not straight at all. Come on, Lena. There we go. That's better. Okay. All right. Almost there. Now, for our last strips of DSP, this large one is going to slide in behind. Now, it is the same length as our cardstock, so it's going to be really easy to get that centered. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the back, and it is going to slide right down in behind my pop-out pieces. I'm going to slide it in there, line up the edges with the top and bottom of my crumb cake panel, squish it and burnish. And there we go. These 2 little guys, you can probably guess, are going to go on the sides to hide those tabs that we glued down. So a little bit of glue. And we're just going to center those. You do not want to put these right up tight to the folds. It's going to interfere with your card squish and flat. Ask me how I know. Okay, and then the other side. There we go. There is our card base. Isn't that easy? So easy. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how to decorate. So these are actually all die cuts. I had some fun with the die cuts. They are such fabulous dies in this set. It makes it really, really easy to put cards together without doing any stamping if you don't want to. So I've cut, I'm going to show you which die I used here. I used this tall stemmed flower, kind of looks like a chrysanthemum. And I cut 2 and just the bloom of a 1/3 from some of the DSP. So it's the same DSP that I used on this front panel, but it's the reverse side. Okay. And then I cut just the flowers from 2 more pieces of DSP. So this is from the same one that we used on our backing panel. And then this one is kind of that purple and brown floral. All right, so before we put these together, we're going to add a little ink blending because I love my blending brushes and it really does add so much to our project. So I'm going to start with my Blackberry Bliss. I'm going to take one of these little blossoms that I cut and we're going to darken it down a little bit. So I'm just going to bring in my Blackberry Bliss and hit the edges of my die cut. And I absolutely love how rich that looks. Isn't that pretty? Look at the difference. Let me hold that up. Can you see that? Such a difference. So that is our blackberry. And then we're going to do a little bit of Petunia Pop on the second purple. So this is tone on tone. This DSP is Petunia Pop. So it's going to be much less subtle than the first one we did. Whoopsie, sticky fingers. But again, it just adds a little bit of shading and depth. Okay. And then finally, the last one, we're going to do a little bit of tone on tone blending with some Timid Tiger. Yeah, Kenzie, I love Blackberry Bliss too. It's such a stunning, rich color. Absolutely beautiful. All right, so I'm going to come in with my Timid Tiger. And this is really going to make this orange blossom so, so pretty. There we go. There's our orange one. Isn't that pretty? All right, now we're going to do a little fancy cutting and layering, and we're going to create some flowers. So I'm going to start with my Blackberry Bliss one. We're going to use the entire green die cut. And what I'm going to do is trim off these little bottom leaves here from my die cut. So I'm just taking my snips and I'm just kind of trimming them off. Because when I layer it, I want that part to be green, not purple. So now it's just a matter of literally putting a bit of seal on the back and sticking it right over top. And then you've got a two-tone flower with no effort at all. Okay, isn't that pretty? Next, we'll do our petunia pot. So again, oh, gotta trim this off first. Let's trim our little excess leaves here. A little bit of seal. And we'll pop that on there. Now we are actually going to cut this off of, I'm going to leave a little bit of a stem. We're going to use those leaves for something, so we'll just hold on to those. And then finally, my orange one, Timid Tiger, same thing. We'll trim off those little leaves and add our layer. And there we go. There are our pretty blossoms. All right, before we can build our arrangement, we need to stamp and punch our sentiment. So I got a little bit of scrap white cardstock here, and I'm going to stamp my "Thanks for Being You" in Pecan Pie. So I'm just stamping it on the scrap, and then we're going to punch it out using the Labeled with Love punch. And I'm going to stamp this towards the, or punch this so that the sentiment is towards the right, because I need room for my little arrangement. Okay. So to start, we're going to basically weave this through, weave the label through our flower. Okay, so we have some leaves kind of on the back, but most of the blossom is on the front. So I'm going to put a little bit of seal here and a little bit of seal at the base of the blossom. And we're just going to kind of tuck that in just like that. And that's going to secure it to our label. Okay. Next, I'm actually going to take again and trim off my little sprig here. And we are going to mount our orange flower onto that. Now I'm going to cut off the stem from this. Okay, so now I just have those extra little leaves there. And we are going to adhere that to this stem. I didn't want them to all look the same, which is why I'm using the different stem. Because, you know, flower stems don't all look the same. So we're going to pop that one on. And this one is going to kind of tuck in. Come on. Just like that. Okay, so again, I kind of slid it in so that it kind of nestles in, the label kind of nestles in behind the flower. And again, I'm going to secure this. So I'm going to add a little bit of seal to secure those. Okay, and then my last one is just going to tuck in behind. So I left a little bit of the stem here to make it easier to glue it. I'm actually going to add some seal to the back of my flowers as well. And we're going to tuck that in behind just like that. Okay, and then we're going to add this extra greenery in and amongst. Let's just do, what will we do? Let's go, we're going to add this one, I think, back in here. So again, a little bit of glue and pop that on. And then we're going to use some of these little leaves at the top just to give a little bit more height. We'll pop those guys up there. And there we go. Isn't that a pretty little arrangement? So easy. Okay, Now, before we put this on, we're going to add some of that pretty petal pink trim. So we need about, I don't know, 3-ish inches. I'm going to cut it probably a little bit longer, and then we can trim it later. I'm going to trim it on an angle. And we're going to secure it to the sort of bottom edge of our label there. So I'm just going to run some seal right across the bottom. And we're just going to snug that in. And then I'm going to trim this a little bit shorter. There we go, just like that. Okay, and then that is going to get popped up on the front of our card. So a few dimensionals. Thanks, Peggy, I'm glad you like it. So a few dimensionals here. I'm going to run a couple right along the bottom just to kind of take care of that seal that I ran along there. And I'll put one up here too, so that stays put. All right, so this is going to get adhered, centered on our large center panel there. So we'll get rid of our backings. And we're going to center that. So I'm just going to kind of get it positioned where I want it. And then I'm going to squish this panel and press it down. Okay, and then the last touch is a bow. So here is some of this gorgeous braided trim that I've pulled apart. So the easiest way to pull this apart is to take the pointy end of your take your pick and just kind of stick it in between the braids, and it's really easy to fray. It comes apart really easily. Okay, all right, so I'm going to take 2 strands. You get a ton of strands when you pull this stuff apart, and make a little bow. I love that this is kind of rough and fuzzy and kinky, and I just like it. There we go. So that is going to kind of tuck in right where our stem is. So I'm going to just take a glue dot and press that onto my stem. And then the last touch are a few of our petal pink gems. So again, we'll come in with our pokey pokey and add a couple of these guys. We'll put one more down near the bottom, I think. Put one down here. There we go. Okay, now on the back, I am going to go ahead and add my panel to the back, just because if I don't, I will forget to. This is just a 4 by 5¼ inch basic white panel. You certainly could stamp on it, decorate it, add some DSP if you wanted to. I'm not going to take the time to do that, but I'm just going to pop this on so that the card is at least usable. There we go. Done and done. You like that one? Now, let me show you a few other versions of this one. I said I kind of had some fun with this. So this is the one that I posted earlier in the week. So exact same card, but different color scheme, different embellishments, different DSP. And then here's another one. Same card. Okay. And then here are, I'll bring back the others that we did. So here are the others that we made today. And then I've got more. Here is one that I made much more sort of scaled back. This embossing folder is the what's it called? Glass and Gardens embossing folder. So I just used it along the bottom edge to kind of anchor my focal image there. And then here's another one, already channeling the fall colors. I used the new Party Pennants to cut my DSP. I did some stamping on it, did some ink blending on it to make it really sort of moody and dark for fall. So there you go. You like those? Some ideas for the Floral Charm Suite. All right, let me just go back and see if there's any questions that I missed. Yeah, it is easy, Kenzie. You should give it a try. Yep, Kenzie, I retired at the end of June. I'm very happy to be finished. Cynthia, question, how do I decide? I know, it is hard to decide. What I often do is I pull out one of each sheet of DSP, and then I lay them out And I just kind of, I flip them over and I look at what goes with what, and I just kind of start pulling them and playing with them. Yeah, that's why I often will make cards that are very DSP heavy, because I really love our beautiful paper. But I totally hear you about how hard it is to choose. All right, let me go back to me so I can say a proper goodbye to everyone. Thank you for joining me today. There we go. Whew, worked up a sweat. No, I didn't. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I so appreciate you checking in and spending part of your Tuesday with me every week. I hope you enjoyed these projects, and I hope you check out this gorgeous suite in my online store. The link is in the video description, as are all of the measurements. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.